So guys, we're going to be breaking down the bass parts and what role they play in the song and the different sounds and treatments that I've used here. Similar to the keys, I use some different sounds to denote the different sections, but it's a much simpler role. You need to sort of just underpin the whole record. So we'll start from the top down here. So the first thing, and this is a trick I use all the time, is a good solid sub bass. Very simple, following the root notes just helps underpin it, and hopefully one day these records will be played out in big clubs, and that will really help the sound have some grit. I'm using the Arturia Mini Moog here. Next sound is this very dark kind of thing here. This is kind of a classic bass sound called a Hoover Sound. I chose to use this sound based on the vocal synths that I was using in the keys part, so I decided this would be a good colour to go with this. It also helps underpin the verse really nicely.
Oh, you are, I'm sorry, but I'm not so.
You can hear how much weight that adds there. Next up, I'm going to skip a couple. I'm going to come to this sound down here. This is a patch that I made in another synthesizer similar to the vocal synth that I demonstrated earlier. Made actually out of my own voice, using a sidechain to help it move and bounce a bit. Now moving on to the post-chorus. What I did here is, much like with the synthesizers, I actually completely changed the palette, running it from the chorus into the post-chorus. Pretty simple parts, just needs to keep moving. I'm using a very similar sub bass here, with a sidechain on it, using LFO tool again. I'm using a similar kind of vocal bass with the sidechain on it. The vocal synth, or bass synth rather, is still running through here. This is much like the keys parts. It's one of my parts that runs pretty much throughout the song just to help glue it together. But then finally I'm adding a bass guitar track here. And just to go over what I'm doing here to this. I'm using a noise gate just to get rid of some of the fret noise. A little bit of compression just to even it all out a bit. And add some level to the whole thing. I'm using this rack unit here, which is essentially a bass guitar amp simulator, just to make it sound a bit real, because I just recorded this direct input into my sound card. Next is a bit of EQ, just to get rid of some of the subby low sounds and add some high end. Normally you wouldn't do this to a bass guitar, but because I've already got these synth basses in here, I want it just to stick out a bit more. I'm using this plugin just to get rid of a bit of that extra fret noise. And then finally just a gain plugin just to boost the level a little bit more. Now with all these basses, you're noticing they're not going to the master output here, they come down to this auxiliary track for the bass. And that really just runs through this equalizer, just to add a bit of distortion and a bit of colour, and just add a bit more colour and special quality to the bass. And then this compressor here just to get rid of some of the harshness, because a lot of these basses are quite pumped throughout the various sections. So I take that processing off. You'll hear that sort of really helps glue them all together and smooth across the different sections of the song. It's pretty simple bass parts for this. I've done records where I use many more. I've also done some where I use a lot less, but really refining the sound of your bass and having the weight there is really crucial, I think, to making a good sounding pop record.
'Cause